G'day guys, it's Mark here from North Oz, and in today's video we're going to be installing some floor liners in the GU Patrol, and we're also going to be discussing some of the options we have for this engine and the fact that it's not working. So what are some of our solutions we're going to talk about, and I will need your input on this, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video. Let's get stuck into it. Now, if you guys think back to our last build episode that we did on the Patrol, you would remember that I said that that was going to be our last episode before it's at the mechanics and up and running, but there are a couple of things that we just need to fix up before we get it to the mechanics, and I figured I might as well film it so you guys can see the whole process and see exactly what is going on. So with that in mind, I've actually had these bedrock floor liners lying around for quite a while now, and they did send them out to me because I've had them in my Hilux. So I'm going to show you what they look like right now in my Hilux. I loved them so much. I bought the ones in my Hilux, keep in mind, and I loved them so much that I thought that I would get some for the Patrol as well. So what I did is I was going to buy them anyway, but I sent a message to the Bedrock people, the people that stock it, and they said that we'll send you out a pair for free. So I'm going to flip the camera around now, show you what they look like in my Rogue, and don't judge me for the mess, but you'll see how they've kind of held up over the last 6 months and why I want to put them in my Patrol as well. So this is what these Bedrock floor liners look like in my Hilux, and you can see why I went for these as opposed to the standard floor mats, which I had the Toyota floor mats in this and also in my Prado, but they don't go up the side, which for me, that's where all the dirt gathers and then it falls down beside and underneath the old mats. But these are exactly that. They are floor liners, and they use the original hardware as well. So in this case, it's just a simple twist action, and you'll see underneath there is perfectly clean and tidy. But then where it doesn't cover, you can see all the grass and all of the sand that I collect on my many adventures. Now, what I like about these liners is it does come up a little bit further as well, so it does protect the plastics a little bit too. So I did buy these with my own money, and then I reached out to the people that do stock this, and they sent me out a pair for the Patrol. So you can see I really like the fact that they're Australian made as well, all that good stuff, and they do a much better job protecting the floors than a standard floor mat. And you can see here in all these grooves, it's collected all this rubbish, all this dirt, all this dust, all these rocks, and it means that you're not scratching around on the flatter surface with your foot because it kind of slips down into these little grooves. So yeah, a lot of things I like about this. So let's see how it looks for the Patrol, and we'll get it installed, and I think it'll look a lot better than what it does now. All right, now working our way over to the Patrol, and you'll see straight away just a bit of a difference in the quality of interiors here, but you can see you got all this, this is a terrible floor mat to begin with, but anyway, it is what it is. And you've got a massive gash in the interior there as well, and dirt gets in and underneath. Even though I just vacuumed this, you can see that the dirt gets in from the sides and it works its way underneath these mats. So I'm going to get these out, we'll stick the new ones in, and we'll see exactly how they fit up. Should be interesting to see how it looks in a bit of a before and after. So time to unbox these liners, and they're pretty simple, they're pretty straightforward. They're just a bit of a, let me just stick my foot on there and get them out. They're like a molded mat, so you can see that there. Bang, chuck them there, and then there should also be some hardware in here too with some basic instructions hopefully, but we'll see kind of how this all goes. I haven't installed these before in this vehicle, so it should be interesting to see how it fits in. So our first step is to get these old floor mats out, and we're gonna give it a bit of a clean with the old trusty shop vac as well, just to make sure there's no grass in there before we chuck the nice new floor liners in. So this is the before, obviously, without the mats in there. I don't know what they spilt on this, but it's kind of dark. It's not wet at all. It's not a leak or anything like that. So the previous owner spilled something in here. So it'd be nice to cover that up with something, which is going to be those floor liners. We'll go around and check out the other side. Well, the driver's side doesn't have as many stains. It does have this great big gash in there as well. So not too bad. The floors on this side isn't the worst, but I think it can look a lot nicer very, very soon. So let's see how we install these floor liners. Okay, so the only instructions and hardware it came with is this thing and this thing and this sheet. So let's have a quick read and see what it says. So apparently there's a section where there was a fastener. I don't think there still is one there now, so we're gonna have to see if we can find it, and then we actually use this one here, this new one, to try to pin this down, and this will hold in the driver's floor mat. So let's check it out and see how it works. Yeah, well, they're right. There is a little fastener here, so I'll see if I can pop that off, and we'll stick this little doobie whacker in there. And let's see if it's so easy that I can do with one hand. And they're the old ones. Eugh. Let's see if we can do this with one hand. It's got to go over this little accelerator stopper thing. Now, it doesn't really look like it's going to line up with our little mount that we put in there, but you know what? We'll give it a crack anyway. So this little thing, it has to be lifted up. And then we're going to try and line it up. Try and line it up there and see what that does. Oh yeah, done. Oh, it looks much better. Look at that. Now the other side doesn't need a fastener, so that can just go straight in. And there you go. And I'm glad it covered up most of those stains there too. That looks a lot better than what it did before. So let's get rid of these old mats. I'll put them off to the side and repurpose them for something else so we're not being wasteful. Let me show you exactly what the problem is with this engine. So let me tick it over and I'll show you what the symptoms are. And already you guys can see the check engine light has appeared down there and our revs aren't registering. Now, that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem that we have is that it has stalled out on me, and that's where it's pretty much been parked up ever since then, because I need to have reliable transport wherever I go. Whether it's going camping or whether it is going to work, I need to make sure I've got reliable transport wherever I go. So let me rev it now for you. It's starting to get a little bit warm. I'm just going to rev it a little bit and you'll see that the revs will catch up for a bit, and they might actually stay up a little bit. So I'll show you what some of these symptoms are. So often that rev counter will start jumping up and down, and it will, it'll start registering eventually, but deciding not to do that today. But anyway, that's the symptoms. That gives you a bit of a rundown on what we're looking at, and yeah, kind of what the problems are. So we can now talk about some of our options. So for the last part of this video, I want this to be a bit of a sounding board, and I want you guys to let me know what you would do in my situation, but I want to explain the situation a little bit with the Patrol. So that's what we're going to get into now. So the way that I see this build going forward, or maybe not going forward, is with 3 options. And I want you guys to tell me which option you would take. So option number 1 is to go ahead as planned and to try and fix all the things that are wrong with the Patrol, which at this point is mostly just the engine, the check engine light, and there's a few little things with steering wheel, windows, stuff like that. So that's the first option, is just to run its course, take it to the mechanics, see how things go, pay the money to get it back to factory, and hope that nothing else breaks on it. Even though it's done 350,000 Ks, a little bit under it, but you know, it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. So I don't want to sell it short by saying that it's got hardly any kilometers left in it. But I am also mindful that at around that age, things are going to start to break. Things are going to need to start to be replaced. Things like diffs, bushings, all that sort of stuff. And then engines need to be fully reconditioned as opposed to a diesel pump, which we think is the problem with it. So at this point, that first option is about 3. I don't know how much it's going to be because the mechanic's going to tell me, but I'm just budgeting for around 3 grand from what people tell me. So option number 2 is we don't do anything at all. We don't do anything for about 12 or so months, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending on how the savings go. And we wait and we save our money to put into a engine conversion, a TD42 engine conversion specifically. And that will cost us around 14 or so grand, which is a lot of money. But if it means that we spend the money once and we spend it right, then so be it. So that's option number 2. Vastly more expensive at this point than just repairing the factory parts, just like we were talking about in option 1. But there are 2 options so far. Now, option number 3 is something that you may not like, but it's something that I am really considering at this point, is just cut our losses and sell the Patrol for pretty much how much I'm into it at this point, which is about a little bit over $8,000, and sell it as is, where is, and kind of cut our losses. That's option number 3. So option number 1 is to try to get it back to factory, see how that goes. It probably will be gradual, fixing little things as they pop up. Who knows? Might be $3,000, might be more, might be less. I don't know at this point. Option number 2 is to save the money and do a big rebuild on it. And option number 3 is to sell it and move on to a different project. So you guys can see it a little bit from my perspective, and you can get inside my head a little bit. So you can kind of figure out why I'm leaning towards the option of just cutting our losses and running. Is this project was designed to be a project, exactly that. I'm not regretting it, but it is taking much longer than I thought. I was hoping that this would be a 2 to 3 month turnaround, and then we can get the vehicle on the tracks and show you guys how much you can get, or how much 4-wheel drive you can get for your money and go camping and do that sort of stuff. I feel like that if I cut my losses and run now, I haven't really fulfilled that, but it's also important for me to be, I guess to practice what I preach. And if a project isn't going how you thought, and this is the advice that I'd give to you guys, is that if something is turning into a money pit, is at what point do you cut your losses and run and take that money and put into a different project that maybe is a bit more reliable and is, able to give you what you want, which at this point for me is getting out and doing some camping. In the budget build. Now, you guys know I've got the Hilux and the Rogue, and that works perfectly fine. That's great for my travels and stuff, and I love it. And I don't want to be spending all my time and all my weekends working on the budget Patrol when I could be spending that time giving you guys some camping content as well. So it does kind of come down to you. It comes down to you guys as the viewer to have some input and let me know what you think. And I'm going to do a poll as well on the community tab of the channel on here. So please make sure that you guys do vote on that. And I'll be interested to see what you guys think. You can tell by my voice and by the previous video as well. I was very disheartened in the previous video, but now I'm just in problem solving mode. I'm just trying to fix and move forward. So you can kind of see, to go over some of the pros and cons of each very quickly. So obviously fixing the vehicle as we go is a lot more of a realistic, a realistic approach and what you guys would find, as opposed to dropping 15 grand into it at the one time. However, keeping the vehicle sidelined for a certain amount of time, because the chassis on it is straight. There's not much rust in there, if any at all. Actually, there is none, which is why I got the Patrol in the first place, is because there was no structural rust or anything like that. So for me, it kind of makes sense to have a good solid vehicle and then change the parts as we need to, which is our option 2. And that's where the option 2 comes in, is do we just save our money for a year or so, save as much as we can anyway, and then send it down to the Gold Coast, where they can do an engine conversion for around 14 to 15 grand, which to me is a lot of money. It's 3 times what I paid for the vehicle. So, that's something to keep in mind as well. Now for option 3, and again, weighing up the pros and cons, is, like I said, at what point do we just do a, Kenny Rogers in the Gambler and know when to hold them and know when to run, or know when to fold them. So at what point do we do that? And I think that this is the point that we need to have this discussion. This is the point that, we need to kind of draw a line and say, do we go past that line, and do we start spending the 3, 4, 5, 6 grand it's going to take to get this thing track ready, camping ready? Or do we, just cut our losses now while we are only about 8 or so grand into it, and I would sell it for around that as is on the current marketplace, but in the current market. So I'm conflicted. You guys can tell that. And this is where this video is going to stop, because I want now the conversation will kind of be in the comment section, and the thinking will come from you guys as well. And I would really love to bounce some ideas off you guys. A lot of you have been doing this a lot longer than I have. I've had the channel up here now for 2 or 3 years, whatever it is. So I haven't been doing this for decades and decades. So I would really like your opinion on how we should move forward with this build and what you want to see from the channel. You know, this is a community effort. It's all about what you guys want to see. I love making content, but I love making content that you guys like as well. So I would really appreciate, you know, you guys can like the video, try to get this out to as many people as you can so they can chip in as well. The more brains we have on this, the better. So I really do need your help. So please put it down in the comment section what you guys would do. Use the voting function in the polls, but also consider that there isn't a limitless amount of money. I am just a teacher. I'm not a mechanic. You know, I don't have those skills, so I can't subsidize the cost in any way by using my time and my labor. So, and that's pretty much taken up with my full-time job. So if you guys consider that as well, that there's not endless funds, there's not endless time, and the time that I do have, I want to be out there filming, camping stuff. A little bit of installs stuff is fine, but doing a flat out project at this point where we're tearing everything down ourselves in the garage is not an option at this point. Maybe a couple of years from now when the channel gets a bit bigger and maybe we have a bigger space to do it, but we just can't do that right now. So who knows, maybe this project, maybe it arrived a year or two too early, who knows, but I would really appreciate your opinions. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for considering the options that I put forward today. And I look forward to moving the channel as always in a positive direction so we can create more awesome content for you guys. And yeah, we can all have a great time doing it. So I'll see you down in the comment section.